So, hello everyone. Today's topic is Illuminate console applications with Laravel Zero. And because I have to ask, who in here already heard about Laravel Zero? Not bad. Thanks. So, a little bit about myself first. My name is Nuno. I came from Portugal 2 years ago, and since then I'm working here in Paris at this beautiful company, working mainly with web applications, right? So I mainly work with PHP and Laravel, and usually at my lunchtime I'm always on this table right here, okay? So I'm always the winner, normally. And at my free time though, I'm performing open source. So this is kind of my and day after my day job, I usually sit on behind my desk performing open source. So I like to share thoughts about PHP and Laravel on GitHub and on Twitter as well. So mainly my two recent projects, and the most known, are the Laravel Zero and Collision, and I will talk to you about them today. So Illuminate console applications. What is actually a console application? Let's start from the beginning. For most of you that probably are PHP developers, you might know Composer, right? And Composer, honestly, it works like magic. We use it every single day. We can pass input through the console. We can receive output through the console as well. And it works like magic, right? So it's complicated to imagine Composer on the web interface, for example, right? His place is on a terminal. And we all love to enjoy the Composer on the terminal. So a few months ago, while I was thinking about this problematic, I asked myself, if tomorrow I want to build the next console application, something like Composer, what exactly exists on my disposal? What are the frameworks actually? Because when you start a blog, for example, we start with Laravel, we start with Symphony, we start with WordPress, for example. And those kind of frameworks actually allow to start quickly, you know? So you can actually build something quickly with those frameworks, right? Something with structure, for example. And I was asking myself why we don't have the same for the console development, for example, right? Some of you might say, okay, if you like Laravel, just use Artisan for it, right? And it's actually an option. And for those who don't know, Artisan is the CLI tool of Laravel that allows you to perform Laravel commands and stuff like that. And is actually an option. But if you work with a big company and you have a lead developer, for example, if you try to explain to your lead developer that you are using Artisan to build a simple console application, the problem is that he will react like this. So not that Artisan is bad, right? It's just Artisan is built on the top of a web framework, right? A full stack web framework that have lots of stuff inside of it, right? Even if you want to build a simple thing. So another great option though is Symphony Console. And honestly, Symphony Console, it works for most of your cases. I'm quite sure of that. And is a component, right? Allows you to start as well quickly and have thousands of downloads, right? But if you are a Laravel developer like me, sometimes you just want to start just like Laravel. You want to type Laravel new something and have your application ready to go. And I start to think myself, I just want to type Laravel new console application and have my console application with some kind of structure, right? I want to start very quickly. And I think as well that a console application a console application none must have to be like a single file with thousands of lines of it, right? We could have some kind of structuring on it. So what I did is actually I start to look into Laravel ecosystem, and today we have Laravel to build web applications and Laravel to build APIs with Lumen, right? So I was like this guy right here. I was like thinking, damn, if I be able to build a version of Laravel framework to build console applications, I will actually make the community feel like this. So, yeah. So in order to give the power of Laravel to the console applications, I started a deep investigation into Laravel's core. So my objective is actually go to Laravel and build a version of Laravel really magnified to the console applications. So what I did was I actually take a look deeply on the core. I saw that Laravel today, it works with 28 Illuminate components. And the problem is that most of those components, they are actually not optional. Even you are building small stuff, you actually install all of these things, right? They are amazing, but sometimes you just want to build something small, right? What I did was actually I built a version of Laravel that have only 8 Illuminate components, okay? And those components in my vision are actually essential to build a structured console application. So the name of that version that I built, it's called Laravel Zero, and you can say that is a version optimized to build console applications. A version of Laravel optimized with console applications. And it's of course unofficial because I'm not Taylor, right? So to show you the features of Laravel Zero, I will actually perform a demo for you today. So today we are building application together, a console application together. In this console application, we are going to need two things. Just add a node and then show all those nodes. So a pretty simple application to build with Laravel Zero. And I will show you how. So this node application will be some kind of to-do app, right? You add a node, then you can consult all the nodes later. So to this demo, I will use a terminal, and I will use PHP Storm, because I changed it 3 months ago. I was using Sublime Text. It's quite of a change, actually, I must admit. So to start, the first thing you have to do is just like Laravel, you have to type Laravel Zero new something, right? In this case, since you are building a nodes application, the first thing you type is Laravel Zero new nodes, right? So this installer is pretty similar to the Laravel installer. We'll download a fresh application of Laravel Zero and install all the needed dependencies. So to give an example, a cool thing about Laravel Zero is that after the installation of Laravel Zero, you already are able to see something, right? So when you start a new Laravel application, you can navigate to the browser, you see you have arrived, I believe. So now with Laravel Zero is no different. You are actually seeing something, right? So your application does nothing, but is already at least list your list of commands. Let's open up this project with PHP Storm. Take a look. This is the default app structure of Laravel Zero, and the things inside of it are pretty similar to Laravel one. So you have your app folder where your commands belong. So all the commands that are inside this commands folder are automatically registered on the application. So that means if I do a new command, the command will enter inside of it. You have your service providers of Laravel as well, and you have your configuration folder. So where your configuration belongs, of course. Laravel Zero also ships with the integration testing suite that I am not covering in today because it's quite of a topic as well. But it allows you to actually call a command and see and compare the output through the console. So we can say that it's some kind of integration testing suite. So since we are building a nodes application, let's just create two commands for our two basic features. I will just delete this default command one. And now I will type PHP nodes. So this process is pretty similar to Laravel one. I will type make command and then head command. So I created the command for our first feature. Now I will create a command for our second feature, that is show all the nodes, right? So if I take a look, I have now two new commands. And take a look. This is really similar to a command on Artisan, right? So I have my signature. What I am doing right now, I am trying to head a node, so the signature will be head, right? I'm receiving a note because I'm trying to head a node, so the argument will be note. And finally, the description of this argument will be the node description. Then I have the description of my command. This will be heads a node. Then I have my handle method, where the codes really happens. So in here we are doing three things. We need to give some feedback to the user that we are having a node. Finally, we need to store that node somewhere. And at the end, we need to notify the user that he have a new node to see. So let's say this info that having a node. Then let's store that node on the file, for example. And the node that you are storing, we are receiving through argument, right? And finally, let's give some feedback to the user to a great package coded by Jolly Code, I believe, that allows you to actually use system pop-up notifications. So let's say you have a new node. So we just coded our first functionality, and I will show you why. So now, since I had a new command, if I type PHP nodes, now I have a new command right here, in the list available. So our first feature, if I type PHP nodes head, then I type the node number 1, I will actually have the node. Take a look, this small thing right there is really cool actually. I could actually have the node number 2, for example, to add a new node. And this means if I take a look on the storage folder, I have this file where all the nodes will be stacked up. I could actually, for example, have the node number 3, and that node will come up right here. Cool, right? So this is the first functionality of our application. The second one is just take the contents of this file and put that contents on the terminal, right? Is the show feature. So the show feature, let's code it, will be really, really fast. So I can say the signature will be show, the description will be shows all nodes, and the handle method will contain only one thing. We just want to show all the nodes, right? So this info storage get the nodes. In here, you might not notice, but we are using Laravel facades, right? Even with the framework that have only eight components, right, of Laravel. So this feature, if I now type PHP nodes, I have a new command right here. And if I type PHP nodes show, all the nodes will appear right here. And this is a pretty simple example, but when you imagine if you are a lead developer coding a console application to deliver your team, for example, to your junior team, for example, and you want him to only have like production commands, right? You don't want him to, for example, create a new command. So Laravel Zero gives you a convenient way to do that. So you can go actually to the app configuration and move the application to production. So right now, if I type PHP nodes only, I only have production commands on it. So I don't have to see like the development commands that the junior developer will not use. Another thing is that the scheduler, for those who don't know what this scheduler is, I will show you later. But you can actually say that you don't want scheduler. So you just say with scheduler false. And now if I type PHP nodes, I don't have scheduler there. Finally, the last thing, and the most important, is the name of your application. So by default is Laravel Zero, but you can say that your name of application is nodes, and say also that the version is 2.0, for example. So right now, our application is called 2.0 nodes. Another cool thing about Laravel Zero is that in this example, I am using a file to persist our nodes, right? So our persisting layer is actually a file. But tomorrow you may need to work with a real database because you are doing a super sophisticated application or whatever. And by default, Laravel Zero don't come up with a database component with Eloquent, but gives you a convenient way to install it if you want to. So I'll move application to the development mode again. If I type PHP nodes, now I have my development commands right here. And I could actually say that PHP nodes install database, and this will actually install the database component of Laravel, the Eloquent. So at this moment, we can actually work with a real database, and I will show you how. So if I type PHP nodes again, notice that now we have access to all the migration stuff of Laravel, and I could actually, for example, really create a new migration. So I created a migration to create a nodes table. I'm also able, if I want to go to database migrations and say, okay, I want to create a new nodes table, but I also want to create a new column from my node. That means if I type PHP nodes migrate, I'm able to apply my migrations. And I don't know if it occurs to your mind, but I actually apply migration right now, and I don't even specify what database I'm working with. And that happens because Laravel Zero, when we install the database component, it creates a SQLite database for you. So the driver that you are working right now is the SQLite driver, okay? So it's kind of makes you start fast in this aspect. Finally, let's just create a command example just to show that this feature is working with a real database. So I will create a new command, database example. I'm going to say that the signature of this command will be database example. The command, the description doesn't matter. And now I will just copy paste the code that comes by default when you install this component. So I will copy paste this. I will import the facade DB. I will say, hey, on the table notes, I want a new note with a description, the note, for example. Then I will say, okay, give me the table notes and put it on the variable notes. And finally, I will use the function, the cool function of Laravel DD, just to die-in-var dump the variable notes. So if I type PHP notes, I should have a new command, call it database example. There we go. And I should be able to type database example to insert a new note on my application. So if now I have one note, if I type again, I should have 2 notes, and again, 3 notes. So I'm working with a real database right now, even if the component don't come by default. The next thing I would like to show you, the next stop, will be another feature of Laravel. Laravel Zero, sorry. Sometimes you just want to build a console application that is simple enough that you don't even need the list of commands, right? So I will show an application that I built that is called weather. In this application, I will just call PHP weather. So I'm not specifying the command that I'm actually calling. So normally I should specify PHP weather show, right? Because show is my command. But on this case, the show command is by default. And that happens because Laravel Zero allows you as well to specify your default command. So if you don't want to have the list of commands, if you don't want to have a complex application, you can actually specify your default command. Another cool feature is that sometimes your application is simple enough, you just want to share with your colleague or your coworker or your friend. And that application, you don't want to actually copy-paste the full app structure and to send to your friend. And you don't want to as well to share that application on packages or GitHub. So Laravel Zero ships with a super interesting feature that allows you to actually type PHP weather, app build weather. And what this does will actually build a single file that contains all the contents of your application. So that also means if I actually drag and drop this file to my desktop and send to another colleague, for example, the colleague could actually double-click it to see the weather. So yeah, you can actually, this file, you can move it whatever you want, and the content of your application is like inside of that. It's another cool feature. It's like compilated code or whatever. Moving on. Now I will show you something. You might ask yourself, if I use Laravel Zero, I still have access to all the things that I had on Laravel from the beginning? And all the cool things that you have on Laravel are still available on Laravel Zero. For example, this application, I'm just putting all the things that make Artisan to build a great interface, right? So you still are able to do a warning, an error, an alert, a comment, perform questions. All of that things that come with Laravel Artisan are still available on Laravel Zero. The next step will be scheduler. So like I said to you, you might know scheduler from Laravel. And scheduler is a feature that comes by default on Laravel in Laravel Zero that allows you to say, I want this command run on my system every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes or every minute, for example. So with Laravel Zero is no different. So I will show you why. PHP Storm, I will open up with PHP Storm again. I have this weather application again. And I want to say, I just want to receive the notification on the top right, like every single minute, because I like this application, for example. So with scheduler, you can actually say that this command will run every single minute. So that means your system will actually understand Laravel Zero and will show up the weather right here. Let's wait until the next minute. But also interesting thing about this is normally the schedule method exists on Laravel kernel console, I believe. And with Laravel Zero, the definition of scheduler comes on the command class. Is the only different. Okay, so in here you can actually specify every 10 minutes, every minute, every hour, for example, or every 6 hours, and it just works, honestly. It takes some more. There we go. Finally. So this system notification will actually show up every single minute. Let's comment, otherwise you are receiving the weather every single minute. And let's move along. Next stop will be a project that I started 4 months ago called Collision. And the reason I built Collision is because when I saw errors through the console, I found out that those errors are not clear enough. So for people like me that spend a lot of time doing console development, those errors are actually time consuming for me. So I built a framework that transforms that errors on the console with something that is really expressive and understandable. And I will show you because it's faster actually. So Collision, just for the info, it works on Laravel Zero in Laravel, in every PHP project actually. And I will show you the usage of Collision on Laravel Artisan. Okay, so in here I have a project with Collision, a fresh project with Laravel with Collision, and a fresh project with Laravel without Collision. So without Collision, I will show you what happens. So if I type PHP Artisan as example, so I made the command example just to show you, the message that shows up on the terminal is saying to me that I'm trying to perform a division by 0, right? Sorry. And for me, this message is not clear enough. I have a mistake on my code, but I am not able to see what code is talking about, right? I could actually specify the option V to have a more verbose message, but still, besides the line, I'm not able to see which code he is actually talking about, right? So Collision solves this problem for you. So a project with Collision will actually have the same information, but with more expressive way. So Collision, besides the fact that it shows the description of your error, is also have the exception trace right here, but besides that, he have this small snippet of code with the red message highlighted for you. So you immediately understand what is the code that is actually failing. And this, during the week, saving 10 seconds every time can be actually some time saving. Okay, so this is Collision, and Collision works with every PHP project and ships with Laravel Zero by default. And if you want to, you can install it on the Laravel applications. The next stop will be Collision on PHP Unit, because this was the thing I was talking to you like 5 minutes ago. Collision works with Laravel, but it also works with PHP Unit. And when you combine those adapters together, the whole thing goes to the next level. And I will show you why. So Collision, Laravel PHP Unit. So again, I have a project with Collision, a project without Collision. The project without Collision, I have a small unit test. So this is the unit test example that comes on Laravel. This is good. And in this test, I'm just performing a request on the base URL. And after that, I'm asserting that the status response of Laravel is 200, right? So it's a simple test. If I type PHP unit on this test, PHP unit say to me that, hey, I'm expecting a 200, but I'm receiving a 500, right? So my application code is actually failing. And with this debug message, I have no idea why, right? Besides the fact that I know that my tests are failing, I have no idea why my tests are failing, right? At least on application matters. What Collision does is, besides the fact that shows your PHP unit debug like you like, it also highlights the code that is actually failing. So you know why your tests are failing, but you also know that you are throwing an exception that you shouldn't. So it gives you, actually can be time saving as well during the week, can be actually a lot of time saving, because it gives you immediately what is your error, at least in your PHP unit tests. So this is Collision. It ships by default on Laravel Zero, can be installed on Laravel, and you can put it on every PHP project. Did I make everything too fast? I don't know. Anyway, this is my demo for today. If you have liked my demo about Laravel Zero, you should definitely check laravelzero.com. That website is super well documented by me. You can see examples about the features of Laravel Zero. You should definitely check it out if you like my demo. If you type Laravel Zero on GitHub, you will find several applications already built with Laravel Zero. We have this guy, for example, that have built something to manage his own server with a lot of stuff. There are actually guys that have built applications more complex than even me. We have this guy right here who have built a package to see the pull requests that his company have opened, for example. We have this guy right here who have built something to check the Bitcoin API that I don't understand nothing, right? But allows you to check Bitcoin stuff. And we also have this guy who have built a package yesterday night who have made some kind of lottery to his meetup on Lisbon. So if you like, you should definitely check those examples on GitHub. Finally, Collision and Laravel Zero, they are both open sourced. They both follow the MIT license, so feel free to use them, reuse them, do whatever you want with them. And that's it.
It could be a problem because I'm still on 4.2 applications in my company. That I'm 4.2, Laravel 4.2.
Laravel.
The prehistoric Laravel. Okay? So I have a lot of issues in the code, and Collision could help me fix them with a lot of verbosity. Okay?
If you are working in a console development, for example, with artisan commands, collision can be some time saving actually, because your developer don't need to go to the file every time the error happens on the console, right? So it can help you on that matter, right? But I believe, I'm quite sure that collision will not work with Laravel 4.2. Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I wanted to know if we can reuse the list command of if it's reserved. Because if you type like PHP notes, you have the list command which is already taken by Laravel. Can you override it and use this in your own application?
You mean overwrite the list command?
Yeah.
So you can provide a default command like I show you. If you want to be another command show up beside the list one. But if you type PHP notes list, this list right here will always show today. Feel free to make an issue on a pull request about that. But today is like that.
Okay, thanks.
Mainly because Artisan is built on top of Symphony Console. So okay, thanks.
You walk on the subway. You walk on the subway.